and it's my pleasure to present my longtime friend, Eli Ferran, who's running for Oakland City Attorney. And into full disclosure, Eli and I met through our mutual friend and longtime friend of mine, John Russo, to which Eli promptly reminded me of something I would prefer to forget: the Super Bowl game that the Saints won against the Colts with Peyton Manning, coached by, it wasn't Tony Dungy, it was actually Jim Caldwell.
Damn it. Great game. It was the best Super Bowl ever.
Moving along. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Just awesome. Living the campaign life in COVID. So I've never run before, but this is my first and only time running. And so people are asking me how I feel about a race during COVID. This is the only race I know, and there are some other people running right now that have some new challengers that started their race before COVID. But my whole race has been during the tenure of COVID. So it's different, but I don't know any other kind of political race.
What was the aha moment that made you say, I'm going to run? I'm going to run. Like I believe it's my time.
Well, just Oakland really needs change right now. Most of your citizens and residents are not happy with the direction of the city. And I had been working for a couple of years with the code enforcement unit dealing with blight and legal dumping. And, my neighbors know what I do. My friends, lawyers and non-lawyers know what I do. And obviously the clients know what I do. So there's been a lot of complaints to me about why we aren't moving things forward, why are we at such a standstill and things need to be done. And you think about it like, you're right. I have 3 daughters. I live in East Oakland. And I see the blight every day. I see the illegal dumping. And, things are being put on hold. And as a rank and file attorney, I've been with the city almost 12 years, since 2008. Once again, I was hired under John Russo. There's not much you can do with regards to change as a rank and file attorney. So it was in my mind time to move up. But once again, with 3 daughters, I can't tell them they could be change makers if I can't believe in myself to be a change maker. So thought about it, talked to my wife, prayed about it, and decided this was a good time as any to run. They tell you that there's never a good time to have kids. Got 3. And they say there's never a good time to run for office. So I decided, since I have 3 kids and, dealt with that and lived through that, it's, I could run for office. So once my wife okayed it, I was good to go.
I got to ask you, since you worked for the incumbent, was it something in your relationship? I mean, that sticks out there as a question that anybody's going to wonder, what happened?
There's not anything that really happened. There was, obviously I had more of a relationship with the previous city attorney, who's kind of reached out and had constant mentorship, not just with me, but with other younger attorneys. And, I'm not a young attorney anymore, but you kind of see this, and I didn't see the incumbent around at different events, not at Charles Houston events. I didn't see her involved in different bar associations and things like that. So there are a few other attorneys in the office that people kind of knew that worked in the office, but a lot of lawyers and even judges didn't know who the city attorney was. Residents didn't know who the city attorney was. So, it's just kind of that lack of relationship with other people that, kind of also kind of pushed me in that direction to run. Whereas, previous individuals, Russo was everywhere, right? You could hear him on the 6th floor, you could hear him outside City Hall, you see him outside City Hall. Other officials that work in City Hall, you see them outside City Hall, going to community meetings and things like that. So when you don't really have a present city attorney, and they're not a visible city attorney, and people, honestly, if you ask your average citizen and resident in the city of Oakland who the city attorney is, they don't know. If you ask them what the city attorney does, they don't know. And to me, that's not the fault of the residents, that's the fault of the office. So I think we need to do more of getting out there. You really can't say you have an open door policy if no one knows the door exists. So you have to just kind of, deal with that.
That's wild. What is your platform? How, because, John, and you mentioned Russo, he had the neighborhood law corps. He was definitely about, making people know that they had the resources available to them. What's your approach?
Well, my priorities would be obviously being more present in the community, personally attending neighborhood crime prevention council meetings, right? Personally attending council meetings and different board meetings throughout the city, addressing blight and legal dumping. And these are things that really matter to real Oaklanders, right? These are things that they see on a day-to-day basis that aren't really getting pushed through. streamlining the efficiency, improving transparency of the office, right? Under Russo, if you look at the last couple, years with the city attorney's office, we've always had an annual report, right? Where's the 2019 to 2020 annual report? Not there, right? We don't know how much is being spent on outside counsel. I want to provide strong oversight and accountability around officer misconduct, which is also like a big thing with the city, right? Supporting the oversight board, right? The police commission, and also improving the morale of the office. We've been having a high turnover rate, and this year alone, including me, 5 attorneys left, right? So when you have like 28 line attorneys and 5 leave, that's kind of a big number. And there's also like 11 supervisors. So we're kind of top heavy. We're kind of really inefficient. I think we can really be more efficient, be more visible, and do more for the citizens. If you know what we're doing and you know what we're capable of, we can help you. And I think that's the thing of like public service. You have to be of service to the public.
Is that to say that there's an environment where you had disgruntled attorneys leaving? And look, I've known Barbara for 26 years. This isn't personal, but this is business. If there's something she's not doing right, it's something she's not doing right. Was that what was causing these attorneys to leave, or?
It honestly depends on the attorney. I mean, you've had some attorneys that have left to become judges. You have Colin Bowen, who went on to become a judge. You have Palayo Yama, who became a Superior Court commissioner. So great guys. Wish they would have stayed, but obviously bigger and better things came along. But the turnover rate says itself. You have people who are leaving, and I've talked to people like Randy Hall, who was the head of litigation under Barbara, also the head of litigation under Russo and Jane Williams, who also was one of the first people to endorse me, right? The morale in the office hasn't been that good, and you kind of just have to kind of shift it. And once again, if you're a rank and file guy, you kind of see where the holes are, and just better ways and more efficient ways of plugging those holes.
How Barbara's had a record of responding to tenant issues. How do you plan to match that? Because that's been her thing, her strength, But
that's been more of a recent thing, right? I mean, she was being coming for 9 years, and you shouldn't take a pandemic or a challenger for you to become this alleged champion of tenant rights. I mean, at that point, you're not seriously, right?
You're right.
I mean, you're not a champion. You're not a defender. You're an opportunist, right? If you're waiting all these years to do something, why are you waiting this long? If you've always been a champion, it's just not true. You can't wait till 2020 to start doing things. So, I mean, and what I would do different, going off of what you were saying before, you look at some other models that have been going on, right? So we had the neighborhood law court attorneys, and we still have them, right? They're great, right? And they have been expanded under the incumbent's tenure, right? So we started with 3. At one point, we were down to 2, and we've expanded to 5. And they haven't always been the best. Well, they're really not the best paid of attorneys in the office, but they do a lot of great affirmative litigation. So what I want to do is not recreate the wheel, but just make a better wheel. And you take these individuals and make them full-time attorneys, right? They're currently like contract attorneys. They're around for 2 years, and you might get a year extension. But why not take these individuals and make them full-time attorneys? So I want to make them full-time attorneys, make them deputy ones, and keep them, and not lose that subject matter expertise they obtain, right? And let's be honest here, right? When you have, and I'm not counting those individuals when I'm talking about people leaving the office because it's a contract, but you really have to be honest with the training and the setup of the city attorney's office, or just in the city of Oakland in general. It might take you 6 months to really kind of know what you're doing, and not with regards to just the law, but the interactions with different departments and what you can and cannot do. So if you're there for 2 years or less, I mean, we're really not getting maximum effort or just efficiency out those individuals either. So I want to get that out, get them, use them to the best of their abilities, but also, make sure they're seeing a case through, right? These civil cases, the civil courts are kind of backed up, right? So you're there for 2 years, you file a case, it might not be ready to go to trial for 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, right? Because of everything being pushed back. I know with COVID, things are going to be even worse, right? So, we want them to get the most out of everything they're experiencing. So, I just think keeping them around longer would be the most efficient way and a better way of keeping up with tenant issues, because they've been on the forefront, the tip of the spear with regards to handling these specific type of issues.
What kind of lawyers are you looking to work for the city of Oakland under your tenure?
Subject matter experts, right? I want subject matter experts over subject matter enthusiasts. I want individuals who, if we're looking at dealing with issues of CEQA, right? I want somebody, CEQA being the California Environmental Quality Act, right? We need somebody dealing with that knows that, right? We need somebody that knows tax issues, right? We had Kathleen Salem Boyd, but she's left the office, honestly, 4 years now. So she was a great subject matter expert, but she's been gone, and I'm not sure we really had anybody to really take her place. So you want people like that who know these specific subject matters, and keep them around, keep them happy.
How would your relationship with the city council be? Not to imply that the incumbent has had a bad one or a good one. It's a very open-ended question.
I mean, I think it would be great, actually having an open door relationship with individuals, just to be open. My wife is the chief of staff of one of the council members. I'm friends with people who work for different council members. So I've been in the office. I mean, I've been working for the city for 12 years. So I know many different city council members. I know city council members that have left the city and maintaining really good relationships with them. So I don't think anybody's saying, I have a problem with having relationships with anybody. Also, I would like, just attend council meetings and have more face-to-face meetings with not just the council members, but also your department heads, see what's going on, see what they need. Because it's easy to misinterpret things if it's an email or text. Sometimes you got to sit down with people face-to-face, pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID, you could do this and really have these a better working relationship with individuals in the department.
What about the Oakland Police Commission? Because I know there's been a rub by some regarding the relationship between the city attorney, the police commission, and the Oakland Police Department. How would you like to change that?
Well, give the voters what they wanted, right? So you look at Measure LL, right? That was voted at 83%. That's a lot. I mean, that's a really a firm. That's a very big mandate. So but they wanted them to have independent counsel, right? They wanted them to have a general inspector. Let them have it, right? If that's what the citizens want, and if that's what the council wants, give it to them. It's not taking away any power from really the city attorney's office. You just focus. That gives you time and effort to focus on other things, like defending the city with regards to lawsuits, making sure that that's manpower that we don't have to use, or people power that we don't have to use to deal with those issues. And once again, if the citizens want it, the residents want it, the council want it, just let them have it, right? And so it's not really a conflict, right? Because if you really look at it, we're all looking for the betterment of the city of Oakland. So we all have the same end goal. We might not always agree on the route to get there, but once again, if we all have the same goals, we should be able to talk about these issues on a face-to-face basis. But if this is something they want, let them have it, right? And we could just use our resources that we do have to focus on defending ourselves in litigation, going after tenant issues, or writing laws or reviewing contracts. It's a better use.
Yeah. When you take office, what will be your first priority change? I mean, because you have the ability to really, magically, if you think about the situation, remake the office you worked in your vision. That's unprecedented. Well, it's not unprecedented, but in Oakland, it doesn't happen a lot. I don't know when it's happened before, right? So it would happen to you if you won. What would be the first change you'd make?
So really, one of the first things I would do actually is like sit down and meet one-on-one with all the employees. And I'm not talking about just the attorneys, but you got to talk to your paralegals, your legal staff, the secretaries, the IT people, and just get from them what they feel could be done to make the office more efficient, right? Because they might see things that I didn't see, right? Because I'm looking at it through this one lane avenue of vision, and they might see something that works in litigation a lot better, or in their specific area. And I'm also just trying to get together a transition team. So one of the people who has said he's willing to help me is Randy Hall, once again, former head of litigation, and some other former deputies that have retired.
I remember when I worked for Elias. So yeah.
Yes. So he's great guy, right? So amongst attorneys, you don't have any attorneys saying anything bad about him, and that's rare for attorneys, right? So seriously, right? So bring some other former deputies in and just help the transition, right? And just streamline everything a lot better. Meet with all the clients, be it the council members, and even before, right? Before you get sworn in January, right? So say when I went in November 4th, I need to be on the phone with everybody, setting up meetings and streamlining everything, right? What are your issues, and let's streamline this to the best of our ability. Because once again, I want to make everything transparent and efficient, and just being honest about it, right? And if something doesn't work, you know, nothing should be so sacred that we can't review it and change it. So just kind of go through this thing, and I'm not tied to any one view of how to handle or tackle any problem. I'm just once again, we want the same solutions. We want the thing solved, the problem solved. Let's just figure out how to solve it and move it forward, and just let them know and reassure everybody that I will have an open door, and I'm willing to take any and all suggestions. If you're telling me there's a better way of tackling a problem, be it blight or homelessness or anything else, I should be able to listen. And it shouldn't just come from, it doesn't have to be the electeds, but the citizens, the people who are dealing with it on a day-to-day basis, or it could be, the county, right? So we should be able to just listen to them and work together. And so that's one of the things I want to do in my first, 100 days, kind of work with everybody and, and just implement things that make sense, not just, things that will work versus, what makes you feel better.
Hey, what's your position on the Oakland bulk and oversized terminal situation? And full disclosure, folks, I begged to have Insight Terminal Solutions as my client to get out court documents that were being hidden by the mainstream media. So I just want everybody out there to know that. So I'm being very open and mindful of my position, but it's not a lobbying position. It's more of an internet reputation management position. But that said, I think it would be irresponsible for me not to ask the question. And so I'm asking. What's your thoughts?
Well, specifically with that, right? So we're talking about, so to make it easy so everybody knows what we're talking about, the coal train issue, right? So when they're talking about OBOT, that's the Oakland bulk and oversized terminal. And the reality with that to me is it's not the city attorney's job to make policy, right? It's the city council's job to really make policy, and would be the city attorney's job to enforce it, right? I see the issue with the coal train issues being that if the residents in the city council did not want coal to be there, it should have been excluded with these governing documents, right? So the reality is OBOT sued the city for contract breach. And the city attorney's job is to sign off on form and legality of a contract. So you're saying this is a legally enforceable contract, and then you can't come back a year later and say it's not legally enforceable.
Right.
Now, whether or not coal should be there, once again, that's a policy issue. But if you don't want it there from the get-go, you should not have allowed coal to be in there. So I think it puts us at a disadvantage, right? Because they're attacking us as a contract, right? Not an environmental issue. They're attacking it as a contract. And we're the city, the incumbent filed these lawsuits, and she's trying to make it out to be this environmental superstar. But the reality is you're 0-9 or 0-10. And if you were a coach of any sport, you're going to be fired with that type of record, right? You're going to be fired. So that's just kind of unacceptable. And then you can't use that these losses in order to get endorsements from like the Sierra Club, right? Because we're losing. So, and that's the frustrating thing with me is I'm trying to explain to people with regards to stuff like, the coal train, OBOT, we shouldn't have not, if you don't want coal in the contract, you don't want coal there, just put in the contract, no coal. They couldn't have sued us under a breach of contract case. And that's what they've been doing. That's what they've been doing.
That's something that, if I may, Fred Blackwell was our director of economic development, and a friend of mine to this day. When I was interviewing, he and the gentleman from Prologis had a sidebar conversation prior to our video at the groundbreaking of what was then Oakland Global. And this is all on Zennie62 on YouTube, folks. You can actually type it on Zennie62 on YouTube and type Prologis Oakland Global and see what I'm talking about. But they were having a sidebar conversation, and they didn't want to mention certain words like coal, okay? And at the time, why they took a sidebar was not significant to me. I wasn't we didn't have Tom Steyer pouring millions of dollars into media and legislation to fix people's minds away from traditional energy and more into the renewable energies that he's invested in, to be honest. We didn't have that. Now we do. But it would be remiss for me not to explain that back then there was an effort to not by the city, which actually had hired the Tioga Group, which then found coal and then tried to push Phil Tagami out of the way, but Phil adapted. That's the real truth, and so that's why I ask you about it, because that truth isn't getting out there, and I want your take on it. I know the incumbent's take on it. No, actually I don't, because the incumbent hasn't yet talked to me about it, but I have a feeling I know what her take is based on her actions.
I'm not saying I'm
right. It's not an action. I'm glad you made the point. It's not a matter of coal. It's a matter of getting the project right. I mean, although, that's and a matter of adhering to your agreements. I'm sorry to talk more than I intended to. I'll shut up right here.
Fine.
Go ahead.
Is the mic working?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Is the mic working?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. It's working. Yeah. But I wanted to get your response to what I said regarding Barbara, because I think $10 million of legal fees has been spent on this, and it's more like
getting donation money from that law firm, right? So if you look at who she's getting donation monies from, so our tax money, residents' tax money, is getting paid to pay this contract in outside counsel. And then outside counsel is in turn losing the case and then coming back and asking money from them. And those attorneys are giving her money.
They've lost four times. They've lost 4 times. I'm thinking, they're going for 5, 6, 7, like $20 million tab bill. I mean, it's crazy.
So once again, somebody who's saying coal should be there. I've got 3 daughters. I want the air to be clean. But I think the issue once again is it should not have been in the contract. And that's really a big oversight. That's not really the only oversight we've been seeing with things coming out of the city lately, right? If you're looking at like Measure AA, you can't go from saying, oh, it's a 2/3 vote required, and then you don't get that 2/3 vote. And it's, oh, we just needed a half. It's kind of ridiculous, right?
Yep.
And you look at the California Waste Management contract, right? A draftsman's error. No, that's sloppy work, right? So family homes being charged $27.85 for the recycling, but they were supposed to be the same rate with multi-family units, and they could be as high. There could be over $700. So you say draftsman's error, I say sloppy mistake. I mean, it's just that's a big deal. But it seems to be everybody's fault except the incumbents when these things happen, right? It's the judge's fault. It's the council member's fault. It's everybody else's fault. And I think as a leader, the buck should stop with you, and you should be able to be called to the floor, right? If journalists or anybody else, citizens, clergy, anybody else wants to talk to you about an issue, and you're an elected individual, if you're a leader, you should be able to talk to them about your point of view and what happened. So it's just about accountability.
So you win. How do you fix these problems? How do you fix the problem with the Oakland bulk and oversized terminal, which, by the way, is actually a low emission design? They say that the engine, I think, is one of the 5 lowest emissions in the world. The Oakland Global Rail Enterprise engine. So, I mean, how do you square this circle? How do you resolve this so that the parties are satisfied? And that I think the overarching thing, which everybody seems to forget, Eli, is we still haven't replaced the jobs that were lost by the closure of the base. And now we're a generation into having not replaced those jobs.
Yeah, I think wherever you look at, wherever there were like an Army base or Navy base or any kind of military base closed, and this was during the 90s, right?
It was specifically 1996 when the action happened. I was on the Alameda Base Reuse Committee, thanks to Keith Carson, in 93, which turned in the East Bay Conversion and Reinvestment Commission in 94. So I've been around this project for a long time. And
in the 90s, like a lot of bases closed down throughout the United States, and in most of those places, because people think it's just military that'll be there, but they do hire a lot of civilians to work, because a lot of these military bases are small cities in a lot of places, right? You have a McDonald's on there, you have shoe stores on there, you have grocery stores, right? You have commissary, you have PX. And so civilians work those jobs. And when you lose basis, right, you're losing a lot of jobs because a lot of them are mini cities. But going back to what I would do, I would have to look at everything and take a step back, review wherever we are currently in whatever lawsuits we're in, right? Because this isn't a static situation, right? Things are constantly moving. We have upcoming court dates, upcoming appeals. So I have to see where we are when I get into office, and obviously talk to the city council members and talk to outside counsel that's working on this about where we are and see where the best footing is with regards to the case, right? Where it's at. So, because I mean, I'm talking right now about this, but I don't know tomorrow it could settle.
Sure.
So we just don't know. It's not just a static situation. It's an ongoing, moving situation. So I have to see what's actually going on at the time. So I hate to give you this nebulous answer, but the truth is, I got to see what's viable when I get there.
John Russo, as you know, was really a big participant in trying to retain the A's for Oakland. He spent, I think, $1 million to have the study done that laid out the 7 different sites, which was basically drawn down to Howard Terminal and the Coliseum today. Are you going to be that active? And what are your thoughts about the whole A's situation with respect to Howard Terminal or Coliseum, the ENA, the way things were done, and the city attorney's role in all that?
So once again, my role and my theory on this is also the reality of this is the city council will be making the policy, and I want to be the person who vigorously enforces it. So, and I fully understand that having a sports team open is important to residents. This is something that brings, your union jobs, your city revenue, and your entertainment. But I don't believe that we should be keeping teams at the expense of the city, and we shouldn't be, no matter where the city is, I want to make sure the city's doing the best deal contracts, right? But it's not the city's job to subsidize millionaires. We've done that before, and we see it doesn't really get us to where we need to go. So I'm going to just make sure we have the best and most equitable contract we can get, and that benefits the residents. So we want to make sure there's jobs. We want to make sure there's a tax base. We want to make sure that the environment, right, environmental requirements are followed. So, and we also need to be very, very transparent about the process and make sure no shortcuts are taken. So I want to just be willing to talk to all the stakeholders with regards to wherever the stadium will be at, right? So if it's Howard Terminal, be it at the current Coliseum, or what if it's somewhere else in Oakland, right? So we just have to keep our options open, or at least me as a city attorney, keep our options open and make sure we're getting the best contract possible. So I don't want people to think, oh, well, he thinks it should be over here, so we could like really kind of maneuver him to, make sure it's over here. Like, no, just, let the council let me know what they want it to be at, and then move forward from there, and just kind of enforce it. Once again, make sure environmental rules are being followed. Make sure that, maybe make sure we're getting a PLA or something out of it, right? And use these things to the benefit of the residents of the city of Oakland.
Shifting back to the police issue, are there some people who feel that the city attorney has not been, the current city attorney incumbent has really not corralled the police department with respect to certain actions? As Oakland city attorney, if you're elected, what will your relationship be like with respect to the police commission, the police, and the mayor, which I think presents a complicated situation?
No, I mean, to me, really, it's been overcomplicated, because the reality is, if you really break down who the client of the city attorney is, it's the city as this entity, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like the city's this corporation. So if I was a corporate attorney, my job would be to the corporation, and you got to look at the city council. It's like this board of directors. The mayor is the CEO. So you just really deal with that. And the citizens and the residents will be your shareholders, right? So you owe them a real duty of transparency. So it's not really, to me, this complicated thing. I think we need to be more transparent about the process and let people know, if the council wants it to be this way, we'll take this. If you want a stronger police commission, let's give them a stronger police commission, right? But I do think what we need to do, and what I really want to do, is just negotiate a settlement agreement, right? We've been in it for 17 years. If it's been a year longer, it could vote for me, and we're not getting out of it. And I think we do need to get out of it. I want to have just assign one attorney just to getting us out of it, right? And once again, Randy Hall, I talked to Randy Hall about this, and I'm serious about it. Randy Hall's been always against getting into this, and he wants to also not just be on the transition team, but also assist with getting us out of it. And then whatever money we save on that, we'll maybe put that to the police commission, right? Because if that's what the people want, let's give them what they want. It's not really hard, it's public service, right? It's really this also a customer service, right? I mean, you're paying your taxes. This is what you want. We should be providing you what you want in return for these taxes. Once again, within reason. But I mean, once again, Measure L out, that's 83%. And we shouldn't have to rewrite things and have people log jamming the progress that the residents want. So I think you could work with the police department. You could work with the police commission. You could work with the mayor. I mean, I don't think it's just you. Sometimes you just, once again, have to have this open door and sit down and talk to people. Well, what do you want? Because once again, we all want better for the citizens of Oakland. We all want better for the residents of Oakland. I don't think anybody can look at these different groups and think that they don't want better for Oakland. Now, once again, we might have different agreements about what path to take, but when you're sitting down and talking to people and they really want the betterment of the city, I can put pride aside and say, well, you know, I thought my idea was better, but you've made a better argument. So let's go this way, right? Or once again, the council is making this policy. I'm going to enforce it. I might tell you, hey, I think it's this way should be better, but if it's legal, let's go with your way. It's in and work it out. You know, customer service, right? Given
right,
and it just hasn't, you know, hasn't been happening. So,
and I have to explain also that the reason why I said complicated was because my impression, and it's something I've raised with the mayor, is that the current police chief and staff have a tendency, when they're working with the press at least, to go off and act like the mayor doesn't exist. And so the public says, well, let me hear from the police chief, as if the police chief is mayor. So now there's this came out during the whole issue where there was an officer wearing a Bub Boogaloo style Hawaiian shirt on duty. You know, so that's why I asked, and I said it was complicated. But having said that, explain to viewers, because we have had a lot of turnover in Oakland, as you know, who are new and it's their first time voting. How did we get in the situation? I mean, you and I both know the answer, but let's tell them. How do we get in the situation where we had Warshaw as really the true police chief as opposed to the police chief? I mean, with the writers.
Yeah, with the writers case. So you had a situation where there was a rookie police officer who came in to work for Oakland, I believe late 90s, early 2000s. And basically he reported the improper activities of not one, not two, not three, but four police officers, right? So they call themselves the Riders. So this ended up being known as the Riders case. But it's like the main plaintiff was Dolphine Allen. So when you're Googling it, you look up Dolphine Allen and it'll explain everything. There were approximately 119 plaintiffs versus the city of Oakland. We settled for a ballpark figure of $11 million. But a result of this lawsuit was a settlement agreement, a negotiated settlement agreement, which became the NSA agreement. So there were multiple terms within this agreement. And originally, I believe we were supposed to get out of it in 3 years. And then I believe we didn't get a so in approximately 2011 or 2012, you have the federal court got tired of it, right? So Judge Henderson got tired of it and basically brought in Warshaw, right? And it kind of like really forced the city to be more compliant. And it just causes this extra stress with not just the city and the public, but also internal departments, right? Trying to communicate who should people be talking to and whatnot. So it basically started once again 20 years ago, right? And the agreement came about 19 years ago. So it's just been this ongoing thing because people think mistakenly that the plaintiffs are still getting money, and they're not. That settlement is long gone, but the negotiated settlement agreement is still an ongoing process, and it's something that they felt should have been done, just a long time ago. And this agreement goes into just different things about how fast IA reports should be done, how we're monitoring things, how we're documenting police interaction, so things like that, requirements with regards to language on different notices. So it's just a long list, and it has, in honesty, been going down. But the reality of it is, we should have been out of it initially it was thought to be out of in like 2 to 3 years, and it's just not. And so you have currently, you have a lot of officers that are with the police department that weren't even around when the Riders case happened. So adjusting to this NSA agreement has been has become a part of the culture of the OPD, and also the culture of the city of Oakland as a whole with your city employees, right? Be it the city administrator's office, the city attorney's office, council members, or even the mayor, right? You have to look at how many city administrators have passed since then, right? And I'm saying city administrator because what people might not know is the city administrator is actually over the police chief, right? So they're over all the department heads of the city that aren't elected. So, a lot of changes happen with the different departments, but we still have this agreement from, almost 2 decades ago. So I hope that's a explanation. It's complicated, but that's kind of the
yeah, no, I got to have you back. We need to talk more about that because I said 30 minutes. It's 35 minutes. Tell them how to, if they want to support you, find your campaign website and what to do.
Let's say Eli for Oakland. So ELIFOR Oakland.com. So the donation page, there's just pictures and documents with regards to my platform and everything else. So I hope everybody goes out and visits and show support, and also vote. Please vote. Eli, vote for me, but also just please vote in general. Right, this is a very, very important election, and right now, last stats I saw, only 8,500 individuals, registered voters in Oakland, have voted so far. So please get out and vote, and vote for me, Eli Ferran, for your new Oakland City Attorney.
Wow. Just 8,500 so far. Wow.
That's what we've seen from the data we've extracted. So.
Folks, we'll have him back, and please get out and vote and get involved and know how your city works. Please understand the value of municipal governance. Please know that.
Hey, Eli. Down, up versus up, down. So let's be honest.
That was something to think about. You're right.
Your local government has more interface with your day-to-day life than the federal government. So you should think about that and really vote from the bottom up versus the top down.
Yeah, it is really disappointing the degree to which people don't know how the government that surrounds them works. That's horrifying. Hey, Eli, stick around in the backstage. Don't go anywhere. Folks, subscribe to Zennie62, bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. No Thursday night.
Buy the new merch.
Thank you. And go Raiders.